and we are so excited to educate y'all on the ins and outs of blood spatter analysis. Many of y'all have probably seen the popular TV show on Showtime, like Dexter, so you have a vague idea about what crime solving and blood spatter analysis is all about.
I just watched the pilot episode and it was so awesome. There are a lot of details that can be determined from simple analyzation. For example, blood spatter analysis can tell the detectives how experienced an assailant is. Dexter uses this to narrow down lists of suspects.
Yeah, and analyzing blood spatter patterns can also determine the position of the victims and the perpetrator, the type of weapon, and the movements of the victim or criminal after the initial impact of the weapon.
They can figure all that out just by looking at drops of blood?
I know, and they can also determine the initial position of the victim just by looking at the crime scene, without using any software. Although, sometimes it is a little more efficient to use the software.
That's right. When the first investigator arrives on the scene, he or she can determine from what direction the weapon came from based on the angle of blood spatter.
Personally, I don't know how they're able to tell anything from those little drops of blood. To me, it all looks the same.
I know what you mean. Let's just say I'm not quitting my job as a host. There are many different types of blood patterns that analysts look for at a crime scene, such as radiating spatter, cast-off spatter, project spatter, drip spatter, contact patterns, or pools or flows of blood. These different patterns detail different things and help investigators better recreate a crime scene.
But blood stains are only useful to be analyzed immediately after the crime has been discovered, because there are many secondary changes that could affect the blood spatter.
Exactly. Insects, capillary motion, and diffusion can all affect blood stains at a crime scene and make analyzing blood more difficult.
And for those who don't know, capillary motion is the ability of liquids to move against the flow of gravity into small spaces, and diffusion is their intermingling of molecules caused by changing temperatures.
Alright, sorry for all the scientific terminology. But yes, blood spatter is not a long-term aid to solving a crime. It must be collected and analyzed briefly after the crime is committed.
And blood pattern analysis is not necessarily a science, but the process is very technical, so it generally follows a scientific method.
Well, enough of this technical jargon. Let's talk about blood spatter in a less serious sense. Did you know that? Oops, it looks like we have a caller on line 1. Welcome to Primetime Crime. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Katie, and I have a real-life situation involving blood spatter that I wanted to share with you. I'm like a really huge fan of your show, and I just couldn't miss out on the opportunity to talk to you. Yesterday, I was the witness to a murder.
Listen up, folks. You don't get the opportunity to hear a personal account like this every day.
Okay, so I was just walking to get Starbucks in the cult because I have 3 tests this week and 2 club meetings and no time to get anything done. So I was like up until 4:30 a.m. the night before, and I really needed to pick me up, and everyone knows Starbucks is the best pumpkin spice lattes, and I hadn't posted anything on Instagram in a while, so I figured I'd take a quick selfie of my cute new boots with my Starbucks and...
Whoa. Calm down, Katie, and explain what happened.
Okay, well, on the way, I passed by the cute kid that I sit next to in my math class, so of course we stopped to talk, and we started to compare grades on the last test, and since I beat him by a lot, I was going to offer to tutor him so I could spend time with him. But then he was telling me about how his brother was coming to visit this weekend and how he needed to go so he could finish all his work before he came, which reminded me that I needed to finish my work too, so I said goodbye and kept walking towards the Kulk.
Okay, let's try to speed this up. You said you were calling to tell us about blood spatter?
Right. So when I was almost at the door to the Kulk, I remembered that the UGA versus GT game was this weekend. To hell with Georgia! And I really needed to get my outfit ready when I heard someone cry out, and I whipped my head around, and I just used my new Pantene conditioner, so I bet it literally looked like one of the girls in the commercials. Oh, wait, sorry, back to the crime. So I turned around to look at what had happened, and I saw a figure darting away, and someone on the ground, so I panicked and ran over to the person who was moaning in agony.
Wow, then what happened?
I checked for his pulse, and I didn't even care that blood was getting all over my hands and clothes. Then I called 911, and the police came and the ambulance came, but the guy was already dead. Then there was blood everywhere, and they asked me to stay at the scene of the crime to answer questions about what I saw, because I was the only witness, and I don't even know what else they were doing, but...
This brings up an excellent opportunity to bring in one of our talented experts on the Primetime Crime staff. Detective Dan, do you have anything that you can shed light on this subject?
Of course, when a crime happens, the first thing that the police will do is talk to witnesses or numerous sources and record their personal accounts of what happened.
Yeah, they interviewed me and asked me a lot of questions and wrote out everything that I said. But it was hard to remember every detail clearly since I was so worried about this guy was going to live or not. And honestly, I don't think I've slept in days. Who knew tech was going to be so hard?
So Detective Dan, what do detectives do after they talk to witnesses?
Then, we will examine the crime scene and locate the different type of blood spatter that Karen mentioned earlier. If the criminal has enough time, he or she may try to cover any blood at the scene with paint, but we have cameras that are programmed to detect infrared light. This technology allows us to discover the spatter regardless.
So even if there isn't any blood immediately visible to the eye, it can still be detected?
That is right. There are many methods that can be used to locate identify blood stain. I want to bring in my partner, blood analyst Kevin, to further discuss the discovery process of blood spatter, and he can also go into detail about the analyzation.
Wait, what kind of analyzation do you do?
We're about to find out. Hello, Kevin. What can you tell us about bloodstains in a crime scene?
Correctly identifying and locating blood spatter is crucial to solving any crime. While there are many methods that can be used to locate blood samples, some may cause damage to the evidence by removing stains or important marks.
Oh dear, so you have to be sure to pick the right method then. How do you go about deciding?
So there's a chance that the detectives won't find all the evidence? Like, what if someone tried to wipe it away, or it was raining, or...
Katie, would you just calm down and listen? Maybe you should lay off the Starbucks. It seems like the caffeine might be getting to you.
Fine.
Well, when blood is not visible to the naked eye, a reagent must be applied to the area to reveal blood stains within. There are three main methods that have been widely tested: luminol, fluorescence, and hydrogen peroxide. Luminol is applied to the surface, and then in total darkness will radiate blue light in affected areas. Fluorescein is applied and then will shine with a green or yellow fluorescence, but there's often background fluorescence that can get in the way of correctly reading the area.
That sounds like a lot of work.
And there's still one more. A 6% hydrogen peroxide solution can also be applied to a surface under any lighting, but it doesn't have as high of a sensitivity rating, so luminol is the best method in most cases.
What do you do after you've located the blood patterns and stains?
As an analyst, I will examine the blood spatter and determine the trajectories and origins of different stains and aim to reconstruct the crime scene.
I saw that on a television episode one time. Do you actually take all the time to cut and attach those strings?
I always did think that looked like it would be such a mess to pick up.
The old method used strings to map out the origins of the spatter to the actual stains, but this doesn't accurately measure the true path.
Then how can you create the crime scene?
Digital cameras and laser scanners can recreate a 3D panoramic image of the crime scene. Depending on the different stains, the masses of the blood droplets are determined, and the path of each is accurately recreated using a Swiss algorithm.
Wait, so the analysts can really figure all of that out?
Yes, they can, and there are other methods of identifying the origin of bloodstains too. There are two different types of software, Hemospat and Backtrack, that aid detectives in the investigation. We are often hesitant in using automatic software to calculate details of a crime scene because if the distance exceeds 2 feet, then the software can no longer be assumed to be 100% accurate.
So there are some concessions or inaccuracies in your calculations or analyzations?
Well, sometimes the weather is not necessarily ideal at a crime scene, or there could be other forms of interference in correctly identifying bloodstains, like a combination of blood patterns.
I see. So have you heard anything in relation to how the investigation is going with this case?
Oh, right. We still have a witness on line 1. Katie? Katie? Maybe not.
Actually, we just got word that they have solved the crime.
It appears that Katie was correct in telling us that she walked into the Colk this morning after a long night of studying, but she did not simply hear someone cry out. She was the perpetrator. In her sleep-deprived state, she stumbled toward an innocent student wearing a Georgia shirt. Outraged, she stabbed him and killed him.
The exact whereabouts of Katie are unknown right now, but we will find her.
Oh my goodness, I never would have thought she was capable of something like that. Sleep deprivation is a serious issue gripping the youth of our nation. It can make nice people do crazy things.
As you can see, blood spatter analysis can either contradict or support a witness's testimony, and in this case, the witness's statement was not correct. We can determine this thanks to blood spatter analysis.
That's right. In many cases, the witness may be giving a false testimony or just may not have a good grasp of the crime. In one particular case, it was believed that the victim committed suicide, but blood spatter on the victim's hand was analyzed to determine that the crime was actually a murder.
Wow. See, that's exactly why blood spatter analysis is so important.
Well, I guess that's all for this week. Be sure to tune in next time for an exciting discussion on the importance of dogs in busting drug cartels.
Oh, wow, that's exciting. See y'all next week.